On today's episode of Banterpreneurs, we enjoy some playtime with our special halftime entrepreneur guest, Mike Drohan.
We discover the ugly baby syndrome and how it has the potential to suck us dry.
And we identify how to decide whether to drop a project or keep on trucking.
Toot, 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 toot.
Solopreneurs, come on down! Unpacking all your business woes on the go. Your queens of business banter, Laura and Lindsay. You're in for a hilarious half hour of unconventional, unpredictable, unadulterated solopreneur shenanigans, jam-packed with pearls of wisdom and actionable aha moments. Let's get ready to banter!
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Banterpreneurs. She is Lindsay. She is a creativity coach, an improv teacher, and she is so full of scrambled eggs, bad things might actually happen very soon.
She is Laura. She is a performance coach, a professional speaker, and she had a letting go ceremony in the toilet before we started the podcast. And I get to say that back to you because it's always me in the toilet. So I'm just...
That's true. I know. I was jealous of your toilet time. So I just started doing an extra week.
You owed it. You owed it because it's always me, right? That's
well, thank you.
Oh. Now, look, I'm really, 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 really excited because we have a playmate here with us.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do. And I'm very excited about this man because I love him. He's amazing. He is the host of the Doing Epic Stuff podcast, and he's a halftime entrepreneur. And this week he had a far lap week. Please welcome Mike Drohan!
And the crowd goes wild!
That is the best intro I've ever received in any context. P.S. You should seriously consider renaming your podcast to Toilet Time. That's a
yes.
That's a winner.
Yeah, that's a winner. That's definitely a winner. Now tell me, Mike, you've had a far lap week. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I feel like this week, as opposed to most weeks, I sort of started slow and ended strong towards the end of the week. So
well
today
done.
I feel like I'm peaking on Friday, which is a rarity for me, really.
And for most of us, by the way, far lap is a horse, isn't it?
Yes.
Was.
And
Okay.
far lap.
Thank you. The penny just dropped.
Yeah, it's a horse, a racehorse. One of the most famous racehorses, and his heart was massive, like huge heart, and it's in a museum somewhere. I'm not sure where.
Okay,
you can see them.
I'm on board.
You can see the heart in the museum, yeah.
he might argue there's potential that he also had a penchant for cobalt, but we'll never really know about that. It might have. There is it's been alleged that Farlap might have been doped for most of his career, hence his amazing finishes. But he's still our national hero. Love Farlap.
Okay,
yes.
But Mike, we can rest assured that you're not doped with your Friday.
Yeah, that's
you're
not why you
100%
peak.
sober. Maybe not 100%. Close to sober.
Half-time entrepreneur, half-time sober. That's what that means.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Okay, so Mike, talk to us. So, was there anything that you can sort of pin down? Like, why was this a far lap week?
Yes,
like,
please. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, what's the secret sauce to finishing strong at the end of the week? So, I think I had a couple of really sort of what's the word, like meaningful conversations yesterday with a couple of different people, and they just kind of, I guess it's not often that I would reach out to people and ask specifically, like, can you give me feedback on this or that? I tend to be a little bit of a pull away at work by myself sort of guy. So I don't get a lot of external input, probably less than I should some of the time. I'm a little bit, maybe a bit of a control freak thing going on. I kind of like to just pull back, work really hard and then go blah and kind of release it.
I'm like that, yeah.
Yeah. So
vomit it into the world.
That's kind of my thing. Except as I might touch on a little bit later, the vomiting into the world part can be problematic a little bit for me because I hold on to things a little bit too much. But I'll come back to that. But
okay.
See, we don't. That's the toilet. We don't hold on. I had to bring that back. Yeah, release it. Okay. So you had these meaningful conversations and
good chats, and they weren't meant to be like all about me, but we ended up talking about topics that I'd sort of I've been to and froing with for a while. One of them's my podcast, which I put on ice back in December last year, and had always wanted to revisit it. And I'd sort of been umming and ahhing and got to make money. Can I focus on that? La la la. And one of the conversations kind of led me to understand that I need to just get back into that because it's what lights me up and I love doing. So that was a huge win. And the other side was kind of talking about I had a couple of conversations about startups and my entrepreneurial pursuits and my kind of my tendency to dip my toe in the water a little bit and then kind of pull back a little bit and then get attracted to new shiny things and kind of this umming and ahhing process. So got a little bit of clarity on that too, which kind of, I just feel like even those two elements, which I guess are things that I think about a lot in life, whether consciously or unconsciously, having some semblance of closure on them to take a step forward, which I kind of feel is semi-certain, is just, it's lit me up. I feel like sparked
liberating.
From that.
Yeah, you're like sparkling just talking about it, which makes me think that it's probably a thing. Not that I've really known you for any longer than 10 minutes, but
10 minutes, mate, that's all you need. Come on.
Definitely sparkling the most in these last 10 minutes talking about them, which is good. Okay, no, you go, Lindsay, because I've got too many things in my brain. I need to make sense of them before I can vomit them out into the world.
Yes, let's vomit with a kind of a rhythm.
With grace.
Yeah, with a grace. Let's vomit with grace. Yeah. With aplomb. Let's vomit with aplomb. Mike, talk to us a bit more about that. I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, I think one of the kind of revelations I've had through that relatively short process, like as I sort of mentioned, I dip my toe into the water a little bit, and I work on things, and then I get a little bit uncertain as to why I started them and how far I should follow through with them. And I think I've kind of come to this sort of understanding that a lot of the projects of my life, probably because of being like a little bit of a perfectionist, I get this little bit of this ugly baby syndrome. I like to call. So,
what the heck is that?
Talk to us. Talk to us about that.
Ugly baby
syndrome.
So ugly baby syndrome, like to me, is you've poured a lot of your personal time and energy into something, and thus you have a real affinity towards it, right? Like you feel strongly that you've built a bond with whatever this thing is, whether it's
like a baby,
pitch, just like a baby. Like you created this sucker, you've brought it into the world, and then at some point in this journey of your creation and this brilliance and this fusion of new ideas and beauty that you're creating something original, you realize that it's fucking ugly, and then you kind of you're stuck with this thing that you're like, why did I even create this? But I can't abandon it because it's my baby. I can't just let it free and just walk away from it. A, because I've spent so much time creating the sucker, and B, because it actually is mainly just A. You just become totally like, if I walk away from this project or thing at this point in time, like, what have I lost in doing that? I need to just keep going. There must be a solution here. So you just continue to nurse the ugly baby.
Wow. Gosh, that's interesting / a lot of my life, I think. Thanks for giving it a label.
Pleasure.
Totally.
So that's the ugly baby thing. So does the ugly baby ever actually develop into a beautiful swan? Is that a possibility for an ugly baby? Like, does it reach a point where you've got to decide, ain't nothing gonna help this ugly baby versus I can get it some reconstructive surgery or something?
Some very, very early life fluid reconstructive surgery. I think there's a couple of ways to tackle that, I think. And I think one of the things that I've become better at over the years is trying to set some sort of realistic expectations as to what I want this baby to become by a certain stage. So like one of the classes of goals that I try and use is SMART goals. They're like specific, measurable, attainable, something that begins with R. What's the R? It's
realistic.
Thank you, ladies. and time-based. So I've found that like setting smart goals for things that I'm working on, like if this doesn't achieve X by Y date, really relieves a lot of the expectations there and kind of allows me to make a little bit more do or die decisions that are informed rather than just emotional backlash to, maybe showing it to someone and them going, hey, that's really, really good, and then falling in love with it again, or the flip side, showing it to someone and them going, this really isn't good. Like there's a real problem with that.
This ugly man,
right?
this ugly baby.
Exactly. So I think the metrics and the measurement side of things, like you've got to kind of have a bit of that in place as early as possible, I think, because otherwise there is a real risk that you just hold on and it's an emotional thing rather than a logical thing.
Can I tell you though? Sorry,
please, go for
carry
it,
on.
I was just going to say I'm all about emotional and logical because my dad's a chemical engineer, but my mum's a kindergarten teacher, right? So I'm this conflicted soul of uber creativity and spreadsheets. That's,
Wow. I wonder which one we'd get if we took you out on a date.
If you're lucky, both of them.
Oh. Too many things in my brain now. Stop it, Laura. He's new.
Stop it.
Turn the time. It's back.
So this is the thing I want to tell you is that I actually am experiencing some anxiety right now at the thought of putting a time date to it. Like I get SMART goals, I have been an advocate for SMART goals, but quite honestly, the idea of having a deadline like that where you have to put the baby to bed potentially, like
it might not be though. Like, look, to me, I feel like it's a deadline to reassess and to kind of go.
That sounds like a get out of jail free card to me.
What do you mean, man?
That's ugly baby enabling.
Like a white thinker.
Yes, she's enabling the ugly baby. She's
Awesome. Okay, sorry. But just to me, like that's what I heard. So it's interesting because like Laura heard, I'm going to make that decision about the ugly baby, and I heard, no, we'll look at it again. We'll look at the ugly baby.
But is that not like our personalities all like out there on display now? So Mike, you said that you're, the spreadsheet versus the creative kid. Yeah. But you're very much like have a break, do things slowly, let it develop really slowly. The
lazy entrepreneur. That's what I am.
I'm like, no, it has to get done now. And if it's not done now, or if we don't have an absolute, then fuck it, all or nothing, right?
Yeah.
That's what
All or nothing. We did an episode about that, Laura. Called all or something.
I basically need that on repeat.
So you know. Yeah.
all or something.
So it's kind of like
we say.
The truth is in between all of us.
Oh.
I mean, really. It's got to be, right?
Profound.
If we're so, like, you're this, I'm that, and he's that, well, then the truth has to be sort of somewhere in between all of that.
Okay, well, go, someone. Find
it. No, I just put the idea out there. Mike can explain it.
I like it. I think it's good. I think that you inferring that between the three of us we can solve anything is also good. I feel like that's a possibility. I truly believe that already somehow. But I think
somehow.
The other thing is, like, I feel like you can be like, metrics are black and white, which is why you need them, right? They're binary. Yes, no, this didn't work, did work. But I guess if all you did was play in the metric space, there's a risk that you forget about the higher horizon as to why you even started this shit to begin with. So I think things that can go like above metrics, even maybe before you start that project, is getting clear on things like the purpose of it. Like, what is your purpose? Like, is this thing going to be built primarily to make profit? Or is the purpose just for like a self-development, personal development goal? And if you can be clear on that before you start, you're unlikely to get 7 rungs up the ladder before you go, oh shit, this newsletter I created, which hasn't grown in 6 months, is giving me panic attacks. So I spend 3 days a week on it and I want to get revenue from it. If your purpose was clear that it was something you were doing to get better at writing and distilling your thoughts, then, you're okay with that. So purpose is good. I think outcome vision is good. Like, what are things going to look like? And this is maybe where you can get a mix of the two, where you say, like, in 6 months or in 6 weeks. So there's a time-based bit. You can say, this is the outcome vision I'm thinking of. Like, I would like this. I would like to see this result. I would like to have, like, I'd like to be doing this regularly. It can be a bit like a quantitative mix of kind of objectives there, like a little bit of a mixed bag. And the third thing I think is principles. So like if you create something and you think about like maybe your principles, which are going to guide the creation of that thing, they can be super powerful too. For example, I have a range.
Talk to me. Yeah, talk about that. I love that. What is that?
I got a whole number of different ones, maybe too many. Like you can have too many, it's a bit overwhelming, but I've got a couple that I go back to every day, especially when I'm in startup mode. And they're kind of like a little bit airy fairy and fluffy, but things like the bamboo must grow is one that I love. So I'm like, I'm of the opinion that like things will kind of take their own time, but inevitably they're going to progress. So when I get impatient about the fact that I'm only at here, but I want it to be there, I kind of go, well, bamboo must grow, Mike. Like eventually, if you keep chipping away, you follow the process, don't worry about the goal so much, you're inevitably going to get somewhere, right? So yeah, principles are cool. I like it. Do you guys have a favorite principle that you personally refer back to in any context?
It's not as profound as that, but I would say, and it sort of changes depending on what the actual problems in my life are, because they're generally because of problems, but then that makes me be inspired to find something that's a principle. And one of those principles, which I'm always going on and on at Laura about, is everything you do is going to take 3 times longer than you think it will. Everything.
I hate that principle.
Yeah, Lindsay, that's one you've said to me before, and it's proved itself so many times that it's extremely frustrating.
We hate you and your principle. I don't know if mine's really a principle, but I do live by the mantra of fuck it. Like, because is that a principle? Can it be a principle?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I'm going to say yes.
I've even got it written on a card, because like, how often do we not do things? How often do we not make decisions about our ugly babies? Or, if we decide it's a beautiful baby, how often do we not, help it develop as quickly as we can because of our own mindset, because of all the fears that we've got going underneath? So I remember I developed this principle, it took ages, when I was doing a TV presenting course, and that was terrifying, doing that, because I'd never really done much like that before. And so I was just like, fuck it, Laura, like, fuck it. What is the worst that's going to happen right now? Like, nothing, you'll get it wrong and then you'll do it again. That's it. And so then I've just sort of kept that going, if I'm like, oh, I can't, I'm too tired, or I'm too whatever, fuck it.
I reckon that's like, it's like, what is it? Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and fuck it just sums it up.
That's
a winner.
Fuck it.
Fuck it, darling, fuck it.
I love it.
I have one slight addition, if I may, Mike, to what you said, or an extension, if you like. I really loved what you said. And I would suggest that we could even add a step above the purpose, which might be higher purpose, for example. So you decide the purpose, is it profit? Is it personal development? But then you look at above that and go, well, what's the purpose of me doing that? Am I personally developing my writing because, I'd like to make some money from that one day, or I think that's a really good way for me to, evolve my brain or let my creative juices flow? Or do I want to make this amount of profit because I want to save for a house, or I want to be able to invest in more of my business, or whatever? So just that extra chunked up layer, I think, is a layer that quite often is missing for people, because let's face it, we're all in business to give ourselves a lifestyle, right? I think, or to make a difference in the world, or both, ideally. And I know that's a big thing for you, Mike, is all around sustainability and purpose and doing good for the world.
And I would chunk up again. And go. So please, I can't take it.
Take it up. Take it up a lot.
Take it up, baby.
I can. Where's the ceiling? There is no ceiling.
There's no ceiling. You've chunked it up, and then I would chunk it up again to then what are the values being met? So what are your values that are being met? Because most conflicts happen on a values level. So, it could be something you think, I want this, and there is a value in you that wants this thing, but there's also an opposing value that wants something opposite. So for example, with a certainty, uncertainty thing that we spoke about, I think in the last episode, maybe about the needs for certainty and uncertainty. So we've got those values that we have. And it's interesting because like Mike was saying too, if you know you're just doing something for personal development, and why is that important? Because I want to grow as a person and as a spirit, then what you expect from that is within that vicinity. It's not like, okay, well then I'm not going to make this other thing that's about money for security. I'm not going to try and make that get me the values that I want from this other thing. So it's almost like chunking up again. Like, so we're all right again.
Hello. And I think that helps you decide if it's an ugly baby that needs to be
she's
put
brought
up
it
for
back.
an adoption or not, right?
Or just doorstepped.
Yeah.
Doorstepped.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely trademark that term, doorstepping our
Doorstepping startup methodology.
Yeah, exactly.
Know when to doorstep it.
Know when to doorstep it.
but the values, the chunked up values, can help us decide that, right?
Yeah.
And it'll help us override what you were talking about, Mike, in terms of, well, I've just spent so long doing this, and I've invested
What's
so
that
much of
called
my
again?
time.
Cost. What is it? There's a
cost
name
benefit,
for
cost.
yeah.
There
Because
was
people will do things for too long, even though they shouldn't be doing it, just because they've invested so much in it in the first place.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what they should be doing. Sunk cost.
Sunk cost.
Oh.
And then that you double down on investing your time because you're like, oh,
because you already have.
I've gone so
like
deep
my
on
first
this
boyfriend.
thing.
Like my
I
first
was just thinking that.
7 years, man. Like 2 years in.
Oh,
I
7
knew
years
shit.
for me
So
too.
right?
7 years?
Really?
My
It
God.
is,
me
right?
too.
2 years.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's a long
Sunk
time
cost.
to double down.
Sunk cost.
Stupid. I think I quadrupled down on that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
learned
so
a
like
lot,
what
you know,
were you going to
I learned
say? No, what were you going to say? We you know, once we start talking about ex-boyfriends, it could just, you know, so let's go.
Save
just go
this
back,
conversation, Mike.
Look, I think both of your points of view are awesome. I think they're like, I'm going to call them horizons, like these different levels that you can set objectives and goals for things. I think that's really powerful. And kind of, it can be a territory that people, including myself, have been reluctant to go to. It's like, as soon as you start asking yourself questions about like, what are my bigger picture ambitions for myself? Like, how am I developing as a person? You start to think things like, do I need longer term plans? This is becoming overwhelming. It's much easier just to think short term and be sunk cost in shit that I'm not really sure I should be doing. So I think maybe that comes around and back to the fact that yesterday, chatting with two people, just as today, which is some bizarre fucking double universe that this is happening again to me today, external perspectives are helping me to work through things that in isolation, in the mic vacuum, I could never have worked through and have run around in circles and circles and circles. But with these external perspectives, you can just cut through the shit. Like, especially if they're people that you trust and have different perspectives than you, and maybe you don't know each other as besties and see each other every day. I think there's a real power in that. That's
Definitely.
I think anyone can get just by seeking things outside of their party of one.
Which we all have party of one all day, every freaking day. That's why we're so excitable to talk to someone new.
Oh my God, there's someone here. Yeah.
The webcam's on.
I know. And I think as well, what was important about what you said about your conversations yesterday was you said they were meaningful conversations. And the stuff we're talking about, those higher horizons, that is meaningful stuff, right? And so I think that's an important point, looking for the external stuff, but someone you can have those meaningful conversations with, so they challenge you to rise up the ranks and through those levels to get to the shit that really matters.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you two a question. Just to take it all off me and just ask you two. Okay, so Laura, you alluded to the fact that values were at the heart of throwing out the ugly baby or doorstepping the ugly baby or keeping the ugly baby, whatever it is. And then we also said, okay, but there's also the sunk cost thing where people might just be investing in that because they've already invested like 7 years with that guy. So how do we know? How do we know if it's an ugly baby or is it sunk cost ugly baby, or is it ugly baby it's cool that it's ugly, or is it ugly baby that turns to a swan? You know what I mean? Like I'm putting it to you too. Because I don't know. I think
I know.
All right,
Laura, go, fire.
Of course
Fire.
you do, Mrs. Black and White.
But
You know, of
I
course
would
you
like
do.
to. I would like to give the floor to our lovely guest.
Give the floor to our guest.
I will not railroad.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to the entrepreneur context, just because
Thank you.
it will allow me.
Forget the
anchor.
X's, man. Forget the
I
X's.
need an anchor that isn't involved with relationships, so I don't go off the
Don't
reserve.
we all?
So startups is something I can get my head around, and I think the thing I go back to, and I like maybe even we were just talking about external perspective, even if it's a very, very small group or one person you speak to. But I think in the development of something you're creating, if you ever have any ambition for it to be subject to public opinion at scale, I think you need to get on that train as early as possible and get your ugly baby out there sooner rather than later, expecting that it could get torn to shreds and your ugly baby might just totally radically change in order for you to keep pursuing it. But through that chaos, through that destruction of whatever it was, whatever comes out the other side is potentially infinitely more relevant to people and more of a problem satisfying solution than whatever you created in your own little mind and you vacuum by yourself. So I think developing and in creating in public, getting feedback in public, being brave about that stuff sooner rather than later is gold.
Yes.
Great.
And I think actually the thing I was going to say is, again, a nice extension to that is around, I've forgotten. I've just got so many images of babies being torn to shreds.
Yeah,
it's pretty graphic.
Have a think about it while I do this little bit of research here. So have a think.
Thank you.
Have a think. So apparently what we're talking about here and what you just said, Mike, is fairly like backed up by research as well, in the sense that they did research on it. It was something to do with the weather or fishing or something. And they got people cross-disciplinary. So they had like a fisherman, a weather person, a villager, all this shit. And they would ask them singularly, what is the answer to this question? And they would all come close, but the closest answer was the consensus. So this is an actual thing that they study.
The hive mind power, the hive mind
exactly.
effect.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it. I don't get it. Can you explain further?
I'll explain it in the reference of bees, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's a hive and if there is few bees, then the hive itself cannot be sustained. The hive will crumble and die. But by having a large amount of bees who this probably isn't going to work perfectly, but let's just say that bees
it's
together.
Improv, people. It's improv. He's improvising. Just go.
Make it work.
Bees together, while they're doing their little bee things, going out to get tasty tidbits from flowers, fighting off hornets, meeting other bees, finding things that bees like to find. Together, they are able to solve this myriad of problems, whereas only a few bees probably could not. Now, whether they get together and make discussions about the best flowers, I don't know. All I know is that bees do little dances, and that tells other bees how to get to flowers.
Here's trivia, Mike. Here's trivia. Every bee you see is a female.
Every bee you see.
Every bee you see.
It's all female. Yeah.
So
and that's true.
The little out and about bees are female bees?
Worker bees that are female.
What are the man bees doing? I know what the man bees are doing.
They're
sons of bitches.
That's what they're doing.
Entertaining the queen bee with a myriad of lovers, because she's just doesn't need. She can be as picky as she likes.
Yeah. Just eating the royal jelly.
I'll take you.
Yeah. All right, that was a segue, but was it enough to gather your thoughts, Laura?
No, I've got even more things in my head. Okay, one thing that came into my head that I think is going to link to the thing I was thinking was, in order for the bees to be able to do their thing and be successful, they all have to have the same outcome, right? So
Nice.
they need to know that. I think, what is the point of bees? Is it to keep the queen alive?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the best question. Guys, write in. What is the point of bees? Just write in. Give us the comments.
What's the point anyway, bees?
I mean, like the ultimate point, right? Like
to pollinate. Because we literally would not have humans without bees. That's all I've got to say.
Do they have to keep the queen alive in order to keep pollinating? Which is the ultimate outcome.
Yes, the goal is the queen, to keep the queen happy. I mean, look, happy wife, happy life. That's another way you can say it. Okay.
Shame those fuckers from 7 years didn't know that. Hey,
I know. Let's let that go. All right, because I have. I mean, obviously, I've let this thing go.
It's triggered Laura badly. It's really thrown her off. Living back through the flashbacks. 7 years of flashbacks.
Yeah.
I sunk. What's that? What was it?
Sunk cost.
Sunk costed that bitch.
Yeah.
All right.
So, do you want to rewind? Because Mike, you said, so what you were saying, can we rewind? I mean, that's just so much to rewind back through.
Well, yeah, we've been places.
I want to say something about values. Okay, so.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yes.
How do we know it's the ugly baby?
Yes. And so, Mike, you were saying, get it out there, get it into the public forum, allow it to develop based on what the people are saying. Hello, we're back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so then I wanted to throw values back into the mix and say that they're really important, I think, to allow you to understand when to ride the waves of shit. and how to understand what kind of feedback is valuable, how to get the right feedback, right? So you would need to articulate the outcome, the purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, and what's important to you to the people, I think, that are giving you feedback, so they get why. So it's in the proper context.
Yeah, what's the scope of what you're doing as well? Because there's no point sort of asking someone who knows nothing about music, really, about, do you think this chord progression's good? Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So and is there a way that we can create a hive of people that understand what the hell we're going on about?
I would hope so. Mike,
I think at this point there's almost too many ways. Like, it's, if you were really wanted to make a concerted effort of reaching out to people, with the current digital state of play, it could be as simple as finding Facebook groups or creating a Reddit post where you don't have to play the algorithm game to get reach and exposure, as long as your question's interesting enough for someone to answer it. One of the things I kind of do ad hoc is I write for a online publication called Indie Hackers. And although it has nothing to do with hacking, it's all about people who create their own little startup software products, bootstrapped software products online. Why I'm into that, I don't really know, but I love niches and to go too far into them. So I write stuff for them, and in writing for them, there's people who kind of follow what I write. And if I put something out which was to do with my own startup, I'd automatically get sort of 50 people actually giving enough of a shit to give me honest, genuine feedback, who actually have a bit of startup knowledge because they live on the Indie Hackers platform.
Yes,
so
if you
can
have that to the right group.
So if you can, like you were saying, Lindsay, if you can get feedback from an area where you kind of know that the opinions that are coming back are in some way relevant, as opposed to going, hey, I'm going to put out my new software as a service project, which is all about selling business to business, out in a TikTok ad and see what feedback I kind of get. You might kind of struggle with the quality of those responses. Potentially.
Exactly.
And that's not always the case, but that's a thing.
Can I please share with you both my biggest ugly baby that I've ever built?
Please, I'll do it better.
Because I'd like to get your thoughts on it. So I basically have grown an ugly baby for probably the last 6 years or so. I do think the ugly baby had a purpose in the beginning before it developed into like real ugly. So basically, I went into...
That's a fucking ugly baby.
Yeah, a fugly baby.
Ugly.
Before it became fugly. So, and that's coaching, my coaching business, right? And so I did coaching, got the shits with it, came back to coaching. I knew when I came back to coaching, I actually wanted to incorporate more of this stuff, comedy, meaningful entertainment. But I've kept getting drawn back into the coaching because it's a sunk cost. I'm not sure if I'm using that correctly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Got it. No, that's
Spent
perfect.
so many years developing this coaching business. And look, I don't hate coaching people. I just hate all the other bullshit around it within the industry. But also I've realized, thanks to checking in with my values, that the meaningful entertainment, the comedy, the delivering stuff in a different way is way more aligned to what's important to me and allows me to live the life now that I want and hopefully set myself up for the life I want in the future. And so I've actually had to, I didn't realize it was an ugly baby until this conversation. I've had to really, I know, I've had to really like stay attuned with my outcomes and my values because I'm so easily drawn back into the coaching world because I've spent so much time, because the coaching world is something I know very well, because that's the normal route to take in my world as opposed to the other route I want to take. So I've had to make that decision. This baby is fugly.
and the question that I want to ask is, when you say you're drawn back in there, and whether it be sunk cost or it's just that's how it is, or that's easy because I know it, all of those things, like for me, if you keep going back to something, there must be a value you're getting out of it. Because I really believe safety. Yeah. Great.
100%, because it's the certainty.
Yeah.
Do you find that's a key driver to keep nurturing the ugly baby, Mike? Because you know it, and then you sort of feel certain around it.
For someone who's dipped in and out of the marketing industry for 15 years and actually has no interest in marketing for marketing's sake, I can understand an ugly baby when I hear one. Jesus. But you know what? Like, there's a real power in becoming good at things, no matter what those things are. And whatever skills that coaching business you run require from you, inadvertently, whether you wanted to or not, you're mastering something. And there's a real power in that. And although it kind of seems easy to go, look, that's a sunk cost. I could have walked away from it any time. I'm spending too much time on it. There is an awful lot of value in becoming really good at something, and especially if it's something that that is cross-transferable to other things in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes you great at everything else you do. The fact that you're a coach.
It's got to be really,
definitely,
really cross-transferable. It's tricky, though. I think it is a tricky balance. I mean, I've definitely learned things from marketing, which will be hugely valuable to me marketing my own projects, which at the start of my marketing journey, I had no idea that was something that I would need or want from it. It's also enabled me to do things like 13 months digital nomad trips across the world, which I was doing that 10 years ago before it was a thing. So, and that was because I'd kind of, my like mastery kind of thing was get good enough at marketing that I can do it without the clients even knowing that I'm not in Australia.
That's a great outcome.
Yeah, that was a real plus. So yeah, I think it's some things are really tricky to know when to walk away from them or not. They're trickier than others.
Guys, I want to just pull out something that you said there, Mike, that I think is really frigging important when deciding whether to doorstep the ugly baby or not.
It's a thing now. It's a thing. Yeah.
So we got number one, to know our values and our higher outcome. But then I also think it's really important to look at what we've learnt from nurturing this ugly baby, because you're absolutely right. Yeah. You've got all these skills from the marketing you've done, Lindsay. You've got all these skills from performing and everything that you've done. I've got all these skills from coaching. So actually, they've not been a sunk cost at all. They've actually been very valuable. So I think if we can take out that value, then it helps us to make our peace with doorstepping it. You think?
That's awesome. Awesome summary.
Oh, thank you.
I like that a lot.
I think that's probably because she's a coach. You know, she's able to.
I see what you did there. That was some sort of coaching juju.
Yes, it was.
I used
the force on you.
I was bewitched. All right, tell me more, Laura. That's terrific. How
But it is
powerful.
true. It is true. When you're a coach, and I know this from my experience as well, you get good at summing shit up. You get good at going, this is what they're really saying, or this is what the value is, or this is what they've said a million times. I need to ask them about that, you know. So you do get a certain amount of, and I love this word, discernment. Okay.
Yeah. Word of the day.
Yeah. So you do get discernment from being a coach because your job is to rifle through the shit and find the truth. Okay.
You're a treasure hunter.
You're a treasure hunter.
Ooh,
I mean,
I like that.
let's just put that out there. Okay. So does that, how does that feel? Like, because Laura, you seem to be sort of, I don't know, like happier that it's not a sunk cost.
Oh, I'm so much happier. You're right, Mike. Thank you for that, for making me happy. You know, is that it's not lost time. So it does allow you to put that aside, which, as we've said, you know, throughout this whole conversation, is a massive driving force to keep us pursuing these babies. So if we can park that, then it allows us to get more clarity and access those, you know, higher horizons a bit more easily to make, you know, the smart goals around it, or to go and get feedback around it, or to just completely fuck it off straight away.
Doorstep that fucker.
Doorstep it.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
I think that's a really good place to start.
Yeah. And before you doorstep it, then you can be happy for what you've learned and what you've mastered through the process of nurturing that ugly baby.
Yes.
Perfect.
Well done, us. See, the truth was within us all.
Yeah.
See that? See? That's what happened. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, is there anything you want to add, Mike, like about this ugly baby thing? Like, how are you going with it personally? Like, how are you feeling with yours?
I have one thing to add.
Okay.
I could add all sorts of things because it's such an interesting topic, and you guys are so good to riff off anything it would have seemed. But the one thing is, I think that in order for you to look backwards with enough clarity to see what you've actually achieved, you've got to do what almost every entrepreneur finds impossible, and that is to slow down.
Hallelujah, praise the Lord.
That's my icing on the cake.
I'm anxious.
That's a sign, Mike. When she gets anxious, we've hit a truth. It's a truth bomb. Hallelujah. Yeah.
And sometimes it needs to be forced slow down.
Look how her mouth was. She wanted to say something. What do you?
No. I was just gonna. Actually, it was slightly off topic. It was slightly off topic, but on topic a little bit. So, have you guys finished saying what you want to say?
Yeah, go. Fire.
See the shock what you did, Mike? You just like.
I actually think I just left my body for a bit.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened.
It's called a short-circuiting.
I saw it happen. So I feel like just
whoa, shut down. No, actually, the question I wanted to ask, which is related in some way, is obviously you have your Doing Epic Stuff podcast where you speak with people who are doing epic stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's named quite well, I think, you know, I'd say.
And but my question to you though, Mike, is in order for someone to do epic stuff, they need to be clear on what they want to do, why they want to do it, right? Because usually doing something epic is terrifying and requires people to step massively outside of their comfort zone, right? So I guess my question was, does this apply to that kind of stuff as well? If people want to do something epic, is what we're talking about now also applicable in terms of outcomes and values and you know, having a good hive of people around you?
I think it's in all contexts for sure. I think it's got value in all contexts. But if you're going to try and do something that you consider your extraordinary, I call it like your epic path. If you're going to go down one of, because we face paths every day, right? We can go down all sorts of paths. Usually we follow the same paths. We're like grooves in a piece of vinyl. It's easy to follow the same thing. It's easy to go down the same street. If you, for whatever reason, you get that spark and you want to create the business or run the marathon or do something like that, I think, you know, having the confidence to take that first step can it can take a long time to get that confidence. You can have that idea that you want to do it. The difference between you doing it and not is probably there's a huge gap there, and it can take you. For example, I didn't try a full contact martial art until I was 35, but I'd thought when I was a kid I wanted to do it. It was that long a journey to start something like that, and I only was able to start it once I'd sort of reached a level of confidence in myself and done other things which had leveled me up enough to feel like I could do it, to be able to go into that realm. And I think all of those things that I did out like before that big moment, before stepping into the gym for the first time, I think they all were like a product of continual self-awareness to get to that point. And trying to learn maybe what are my values, like spending some time just trying to define those things. Who are the people in my life who will kind of encourage me to do things like that, who I maybe should be hanging out with more. How safe am I playing things, and why am I playing them so safe? Like, where am I going to get to if I keep on this journey? I think a lot of it comes down to like self-awareness, which, let's face it, like there's no shortcuts there. That shit is hard earned. Like, you've got to do stuff that is uncomfortable to get that self-awareness. And as soon as you start to get a little bit and you start to recognize what helps you to get more of it, then you can kind of know if you need to lean more towards value awareness, or building your community, or maybe just challenging yourself a little bit more in professional or physical, all sorts of realms. So I know that's a roundabout way of not really answering your question, but that's
no, it was great actually. Yeah. And in my mind, I was thinking, it's almost like quite often we can decide something's an ugly baby before we've even birthed it, and that can stop us from birthing it. So I just think, you said before, Mike, about get things out into the public as quickly as you can to get feedback. I sort of think it can be the same as well. Like, just try it. Maybe you don't get the feedback. Maybe it's just for you to just see what happens, birth that baby, and then be aware, have the self-awareness to understand if it has the potential to develop or if it's not. And then through what we've spoken about today, hopefully you can decide to doorstep it sooner rather than later.
She wants a guy, man. She wants a guy. She's doorstepped it already. Look, the other thing that I'll just put in as a side note here too is just be careful of perfectionism. For me, perfectionism is the death of this shit. Okay, like the thing is that knowing that ugly baby is a process as well. So the thing is that we may be harder on ourselves than we need to be. We might actually be better at something than we think we are.
Usually we are, I think.
Yeah. And we're holding ourselves back because we're kind of like, oh, but I've got to be at this level. And it's like, yeah, but you haven't been doing it for 10 years. You're starting. You got to be at this level. You know what I mean? Like, realistically, you know what I mean? So, I think that just sort of came to mind as well when it comes to, like you said, Mike, self-awareness and being aware. Am I sabotaging myself basically with this ugly baby thing? Am I sort of going, right, this is useless, it's ugly, I'm getting rid of it, I'm no good at it, Is that true? Or is it just it's not meeting the amazingly huge expectations that you have for this poor ugly baby?
I know. I feel so bad for the ugly baby. But hey, it's a dog eat dog world, guys.
Hey, ain't it?
Truth.
All right. Laura's the best at this wrapping up business. So do you want to wrap it up? But Mike, any last words?
I think my last words are just keep showing up.
Oh, I like that. Also, Mike, where can people pimp your wares, mate? Where can people find you? What's going on?
Yeah, so probably the first port of call is just doingepicstuff.com. Just go there. All my shizzle is in one spot. Podcast releases should be upcoming. But there's a bit of a backlog of stuff and ordinary people who've done extraordinary things that you can catch up on if you're interested in that. So
awesome. How inspiring is that? Yeah,
great.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for being
Thank
here, Mike, and for staying here and not experiencing a technical issue. Oh no, I'm going through a tunnel.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
I do think we could talk all day. However, we're going to summarize.
We are. Well, you are, because you're the best
the
at it.
pressure of a summary.
There's a lot of pressure here. Come on.
I know.
Come on.
So basically, in a nutshell, what we've been talking about today is ugly baby syndrome, as Mike very nicely put it, and understanding the projects that we're working on or the goals that we're working towards. At what point do they become an ugly baby that needs to be doorstepped, needs to be put aside?
I'm sorry, it's always going to be funny. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Versus, so making that decision, do I doorstep it or do I keep going? And we're talking about, what we're talking about. Oh my God, I'm just imagining babies on doorsteps. Okay, so, and then how we can decide, first of all, is to look at our outcomes and our values. What is it that we're actually working towards? What is it that's actually important to us? Is this in alignment? Is this going to allow me to get to where I want to be? If the answer is yes, then you can start asking questions around, well, why does it feel like I'm pushing shit uphill? Do I need feedback from people? Do I need help? Blah, 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 blah. And if not, if it is something that needs to be doorstepped, how can you make your peace with that? One good place to start is to have a look at what you've learned through nurturing this baby for however long it's been. And then looking at how you can apply those learnings into the next baby and how you can hopefully make it a beautiful baby. Good summary. Did I miss anything?
That was amazing.
Outstanding.
This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I pass it to you, because I'm like, I don't know. That was so cool. That was so cool. Okay, that's it, really. Guys, do you have any ugly babies? I just think this is like so funny because, considering that you are carrying a baby. Literally.
I know. At some point, I'm going to have to decide whether I keep nurturing it or if I doorstep it.
Okay, let's not. All right. Guys, think about your ugly babies. Do what Laura said. Do what Mike said. Do what I said. Do what the hive mind said. And enjoy your life. Yes. I can't. I'm just buying time now because I don't know how to end this. I'm just
okay. Zipit.com. Right. We're leaving. Thank you, Mike.
A pleasure.
Thank you,
everybody.
Mike. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
You've been listening to Banterpreneurs. If you have a question for us to answer on the show, submit it on our website at banterpreneurs.com. And if you liked what you heard, give us a review and share the love with a fellow business mate. See you next week for more solopreneur shenanigans.